Welcome, everyone. My name is Carlos Montoya, and I have the pleasure to be your host tonight. And to be honest, you could be doing a lot of stuff right now. You could be rewatching old shows on Netflix. You could be reheating the food from yesterday. You could be doing a bunch of stuff. But you decided to take responsibility for you, for your business, for your family, and you are here taking 1, 2, 3 hours, whatever it takes to learn and to implement knowledge that is going to truly change your results in 2025. This information that you're going to receive is as good as you implement it. So, I want to encourage you to raise your hand, to ask questions, to interact with us. We are EMA, Effective Management Association Group. We meet every week and we brainstorm strategies to increase the productivity, gross income of each one of the members of our group. I want to introduce the executive director and CEO Jerry Fetta to this webinar. He's going to be your speaker tonight. Jerry, welcome.
Hey, Carlos, thank you so much for the great intro. And as Carlos had mentioned, guys, we're the Effective Management Association, and the webinars we do every month really is, sharing information publicly to help you grow your business. I appreciate you being on to watch this today. If you're watching live, the replay doesn't really matter. What I want to give you if you're watching this is I want you to think with like speeding up rather than slowing things down, right? And how can you move faster? How can you implement quicker? And so what we're going to be talking today about is marketing, right? And so, show of hands virtually or in the comments if you have ever struggled with understanding marketing. Okay, I definitely have. I could put 2 or 3 hands up. Thank you guys. You can put your hands down. Okay. And so for me, I've even struggled with marketing to the point where I was like thinking it doesn't apply to me, right? It was such a confusing topic where I was just like, oh, that doesn't apply to my business, right? And so the reality is marketing is an important topic. And for a lot of people, marketing is an area with their companies where they spend a lot of time, they spend a lot of money, and they see very little results. So that's one side of the house. The other side of the house is they spend no time and they spend no money on it because they don't think it's going to work and they're not willing to make that investment. Okay. And so we're going to talk today about the natural laws of marketing and how to fix that. Right now, before we jump into the actual meat and potatoes of our training this evening, I want to just do a quick introduction on who we are as a group, what it is we're going to be covering. Our focus is creating a growing, prosperous network of entrepreneurs that is creating a safe and viable community through wide acceptance and use of the Hubbard management system. And the book that we're going to be covering this evening is a book called The Natural Laws of Management. I've got a copy of it right here. Okay, and this is a phenomenal book. So everything I'm going to cover is from this book. There's no magic show. There's no information that won't be from this. And this is written by a friend and mentor of mine named Arte Maren, right? So Arte Maren is someone I have a great deal of respect for. He's an international speaker, corporate trainer, private consultant, and he's got over 4 decades of experience with business consulting with all sorts of businesses, virtually every industry out there. And when you talk to him, he'll tell you the benefit of having done business consulting for 40 years is there's not really a company or an industry or a market sector he's not been in, right? And so the breadth of knowledge that he's able to share is just huge. He's worked with companies like Nestle, Chrysler, IBM, Teledyne, American Airlines, Bank of America. He's been featured on Larry King, right? So that's a pretty beefy track record of performance consulting big groups, helping companies succeed and expand from the high levels all the way down to, companies like mine. Artie's helped me tremendously with my own companies. Okay, so we're going to be sharing from his book, The Natural Laws of Management. The other thing I want to go over is that the management system, let me go back a slide here, is called the Hubbard management system, right? And so Artie's book is based on the works of L. Ron Hubbard, and I always like to cover this. L. Ron Hubbard is, chiefly known as the founder of the religion of Scientology. It's the fastest growing religion in modern history. And so that's not something we're going to talk about tonight. What a lot of people don't realize is that L. Ron Hubbard also was the founder of a management system that's used by hundreds of thousands of companies and employees across the world successfully, right? He's written volumes of, I think I have probably 10 or 12 of them on my shelf of management material on how to run a business. And so if you're like me, when I was first starting out, I did not have an MBA. I didn't go to college and get a business degree. I didn't have formal business training. It was completely new for me. And because of that, there was a lot of reaching for information, reading books, going to conferences, trying to figure out what worked, trying to figure out what didn't. And I would say I invested a lot of money, but the truth is I probably donated a lot of money because the investments didn't always pay off. But I was trying to understand things like, how do I market my company? How do I hire people? How do I sell? How do I grow? How do I expand? Right? And here's the reality for most of us as business owners. We get involved in a business thinking we're going to get freedom, and it very quickly turns into something that we can't escape. And so we don't have money, so we then start putting our time into our companies, trying to grow them. And what ends up happening is we have the money, but then not the time, right? Because we're so consumed by our businesses. And so, Mr. Hubbard's management system for me was something that gave me traction and really helped me learn to be an executive. There's a difference between an executive and an entrepreneur, right? And so what we're going to cover is business, right? And I always tell people, on the religious side of this, studying management systems from L. Ron Hubbard doesn't make you change your religion any more than standing in your garage makes you into a car, right? You're not going to accidentally catch someone else's religious beliefs, but what you can catch is you're going to catch information you can implement and win within your business today, right? Carlos, did you want to add something to that?
Yeah, Jerry, I wanted to ask you to share that seminar that you attended with the wood kicking seminar, and the fact what happened when you came back home, because I have attended a few of those, and I'm pretty sure that people here, who are on this webinar is because they're looking for answers. So if you could share with us that experience that happened to you, that would be great.
Yeah, totally. So this was back in 2016, and I was new in business. And as Carlos mentioned, I was looking for answers. And the problem when you're looking for answers is you don't have the right information, and you get this thing that's actually described in the book called answer hunger. Like you're hungry for answers. So what happens is when there's a vacuum, the vacuum ends up getting filled. And so I had a vacuum of like wanting to know how to run a business. I didn't know the answers. And so I started filling it with everything I could. And so here's the problem with, business consulting and, that industry in general is oftentimes, the consultant is in the is in the same position you are, and you don't always know that. So I went to this event and it was down in Texas. I won't name any names on who the group is, but I attended this event. And basically, there was a point in the event where we sat down and they were like, all right, we're going to handle all of your doubts and fears in business. Okay. Now, if you're like me, I was full of them and I didn't share them because I was like, I don't know if this is like just me or if other people have these concerns, right? But I was like, what if it doesn't work? What if I fail? I suck at this. I'm not comfortable with that. There were so many problems and fears and doubts. So they took out a 2x4 board, they gave it to each of us, and they had us write down our doubts and fears with a Sharpie, right? So I'm writing down all the stuff that I'm worried about, all the stuff I'm afraid of. I'm not good at sales. I have a credit card balance that I'm worried about. What if this doesn't, all this kind of stuff, like just vomiting all of the negative stuff I can think of that I revisited from time to time in my own mental space and putting it on this board. Okay. And I did that. And I'm watching everyone else do it too. And we're spending like a good amount, like it's a 2x4, and like we're flipping the board over to continue writing stuff. Like that's how deep we were going on this thing. So we get done, and I kid you not, a karate instructor then walks in the room. Right. And so for me, the last thing I was expecting was for a black belt karate instructor to walk into the room, but he did. And he's like, okay, great. So we're going to teach you how to break the 2x4 in half with your hands. Right. And so one by one, they called us up to the front of the room, and the instructor told us what to do. And sure enough, I broke the 2x4 with my hands, but I should have written that as one of the doubts too, because I was in line. I was like, I don't, what if it doesn't break? right? I already had a doubt and a concern about that aspect too. And I remember breaking it, and for a minute I was like, all of my concerns and doubts and fears and worries and barriers and all this stuff, I wonder if it's gone now, right? Did I just have this magic breakthrough moment that we all seem to be seeking for? And I got home, and the only thing that changed was the fact that there was a broken 2x4 on my shelf. I still had all of the same problems, all of the same concerns, all of the same worries. And it was because I didn't have real answers, right? A gimmick is not a real answer. Something that makes you feel hyped and excited is not a real answer, right? A real answer is information that's true, natural law that you can then apply, right? Like if you don't know about the natural law of gravity and you keep falling down your stairs, it doesn't matter how many pep talks I give you to make you feel motivated and excited. Tomorrow, you're going to fall down the freaking stairs again, right? And it's going to be a painful experience, and you're going to end up back in the same place. And it's going to be something that eventually you give up on. And the statistic is 95% of small businesses fail in the first 5 years. And that's because we're ill equipped. It's not because business is impossible. It's not because you have a personality problem. It's not because you lack funding. Nobody teaches us this. Right. So that's my little story of, the 2x4 board, which cracks me up every time I go back and think about that moment and that experience. And, I spent probably $1,000 attending that seminar, Carlos. I wish at the time I would have just had this book.
It would have saved a lot of time, money, and false data on how to handle business and marketing nowadays. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing
Yeah.
that,
And
Jerry.
at least I got the story out of it. Right.
Yeah.
So, guys, let's dive into this. And I kind of want to handle first, like, if you're watching this, the idea that marketing doesn't apply to you, right? Or the idea that you've tried it before and it didn't work. Okay. I want you to open your mind up, because what I'm going to share with you, number one, is very basic and very simple. But number two, it's something that I would be willing to bet you haven't tried yet. Right. And that's my sweet spot with everything. I like in business, simple and true. And it's not like some crazy thing I've got to figure out. Same thing with finances. Simplicity is power. So any past experiences you've had of hiring that ad agency that charged you way too much money and you didn't get anything from it, I want you to forget that. That's not marketing, right? Anything where you've seen other people doing a bad job of marketing and it's made you concerned, where you're like, I don't want to have to do that. Probably that wasn't marketing. Because what I'm going to describe to you tonight, by definition, on what marketing actually is something that once you see it, you're going to be very familiar with it, and it's going to seem like a smart thing to do. Right. So I want you to just be thinking with that, and handle, just being open-minded for this, right? So that way you're not thinking about all the past stuff, failures, etc. Because this marketing thing really is such a powerful piece of business, and everybody should be doing it. Everybody should be doing it, right? Now, again, everything we share tonight is going to be either from a dictionary or from the natural laws of management. But I want to go over a couple of definitions with you first, right? So first is, what is marketing in the first place? Right? What is that? When I first started learning about marketing, like I had a lot of mental pictures of what marketing was, like thinking about social media and Facebook ads and gurus and this and that. Like that was what I thought of with marketing. Okay. And I had to, again, like I had to handle my own thinking with that, to take the step backward to be like, okay, well, what is the actual definition of marketing? Right? Because I didn't know what it was. So marketing, to market something, means to advertise something to a target audience or for recommended use, right? To advertise something. Now, I want to jump forward to a definition really quick. What does advertise mean? Advertise means that you're going to announce or praise a product or a service in some public medium of communication in order to induce people to buy or use it, right? So advertising, you're going to announce something. You're going to make it publicly known. You're going to praise a product or a service in some public medium of communication. Okay, so a few things we can look at right off the bat to announce something. I want you to think of a time that you heard an announcement being given. Was it like this little whisper, like, hey, there's a fire? No. It was like, there's a fire, right? It was super loud. Everyone heard it. So to announce something, you need to be outspoken when you're advertising, right? The other part here, praising a product or a service. So I was stuck on the idea that you shouldn't toot your own horn, right? I shouldn't have to go out there and tell people how good I am. I don't want to sound like I'm bragging. All of the stuff I was taught as a kid that, I just took it in good faith and I started living life with it. And then here's what I realized. If you don't talk about your product, nobody will. You have to publicly praise your product or service. And again, the word public in some public medium of communication. An example of that could be Facebook, promoting your product on Facebook. We're not talking about spending on ads yet, right? So notice advertising, the definition of this says nothing yet about spending money. Here's what I'm telling you guys. Like, I was so confused about these definitions that when you told me advertising, I automatically thought that meant spending money. I was thinking Facebook ads. I was thinking Google ads. I was thinking radio ads. Okay. Those are advertisements. That's a form of advertising. A radio ad would be technically, yeah, a form of public communication, right? A medium of public communication. A Facebook ad, yes, that would be a medium of public communication. Those are paid, right? But I want you to think about a medium of public communication more like a road. Say you're on the freeway. Okay, you're driving down the freeway, you're driving to work. Most of the lanes are free, aren't they? Like, you can drive in usually 4 lanes, maybe 5 lanes that are completely free to you. You don't need to spend a dime to be on that road. Okay. Now, you could also pay a toll and you can go into the fast lane, right? And you might pay for a little sticker, and that way you can drive on that lane and avoid some of the traffic. But that's your decision on if you want to spend that money to be in that lane to speed things up. Okay. Now, here's the other thing. If you were driving in the free lane and you saw that the fast lane didn't actually look faster, if you're like me, you're not going to spend the money to go in there because you're like, I can keep going for free and keep getting faster and better results just in the lane that I'm in. So I want you to think the same way about advertising. You don't need to immediately be like, I need to pay in order to get ahead. Maybe you do, maybe you don't, but there's a lot of free stuff you can do that count as advertising, announcing, praising your product and service on a public medium in order to induce people to buy it or use it that don't cost you anything. And those are valid forms of advertising. Just like spending on radio or Facebook ads or Google ads or whatever the ads would be, that's also a valid form of advertising. So if we go back to this definition of marketing, to advertise something. Okay, so that's the first thing is we're going to publicly praise, we're going to announce and praise our product or service somewhere where there's people. Okay, that's all this is saying. Advertise. Talk about your product or service, announce it, praise it somewhere where there's people so that you can get them to want to buy it or to want to use it. Right? That's all it is. So marketing means you're doing that, but you're specifying it to a target audience, right? If you look back again at the definition of advertise, it just says to induce people to buy it or use it. It doesn't say that you've done any research on who the people are or that it's the right people. It's just you're advertising. And this is a key difference of like knowing what is marketing and what is advertising. Marketing is specific, right? If I sell soccer balls, I would want to market them to soccer players. It wouldn't make sense for me to market it to someone. They don't use soccer balls. It wouldn't be like, great, let me go find some baseball people. No, that's the wrong target audience. Okay. So it needs to be advertising something to a target audience or for recommended use, right? That's marketing. Okay. Then we get back into the advertising. So you can see how these definitions go hand in hand together. So let me give you an example of that, right? So first things first, if I'm going to announce or praise a product or service, let's remove the subjective part of it where it's mine. I want you to think about a time where someone else did such a good job for you that you couldn't help but publicly praise their product or service. Show of hands if you've experienced that, where you just wanted to share. You're like, this was so good. I've got to tell people about it. I need to encourage them to go do business because it was such a good restaurant or massage or car repair or whatever it might be, right? That's a form of advertising. You're advertising for that person's product or service. You're telling other people to use it. Okay. You felt good about what they did. If you're not advertising, the first question I want you to ask yourself, do I actually feel good about what I do? Because if I don't, that's going to be the number one reason I don't want to publicly announce it. If I'm not really interested and passionate and feeling like, man, what I'm doing is ethical, it's moral, it's really helping people, I feel good every time I do it, you're going to want to tell everyone about it. Just like you wouldn't tell your friends and family about this really good restaurant if the food was terrible. You'd be like, I'm telling nobody. Why? Because you don't feel good about what it was. You would be like, I don't want my mom to go get food poisoning the day after Christmas. Right? I'm not interested in that. That's not a good experience to pass on. Just like with your own stuff, it needs to be something that you're interested in sharing because you believe in it, you believe it's good. Okay. So that's marketing, that's advertising, announcing publicly, right? Now, the public communication, back to the target audience thing, right? So we go to marketing, advertise something to a target audience. We use the soccer player example. Think about this. If that's my target audience, where would they be? Probably the soccer field. So it would make sense for me to put my advertising where they are, because that's who's going to see it. If I go where they are, they're going to be more likely to see it. So I'm talking about maybe putting, sponsorships on the jerseys. That's an idea of publicly announcing a product or service, using a public medium of communication, going to where my target audience of soccer players and soccer fans are, to be like, hey, we sell good soccer balls, right? And then you induce them to buy or use it, right? So what does that mean? You're using the tool of interest to make your product or service desirable. Okay, there's so much we're going to dive into tonight. We're just in the definitions. Who's had some realizations so far just on the definitions like I did when I looked these up? Okay, show of hands on that. I was looking at these and I was like, wow, this is basic stuff that I was overlooking. Thank you. You guys can put your virtual hands down there. Now, here's another definition I want to give you. This is something called public relations. Okay, public relations. The art, technique, or profession of promoting goodwill with the public, the community, employees, customers, etc. Okay, so the art, technique, or profession of promoting goodwill, let's just talk about with the public and with customers. Okay, public relations is, what is your reputation? How are you thought of? And for me, this was such a confusing concept in business because, again, it's new words. Like I didn't grow up learning about public relations, right? Like I thought, and this is my Houston, Alaska education. If I cover up the definition, I thought public relations meant something inappropriate. I was like, nope, you don't do public relations. You do them in private with your wife. Okay, that's how I do my relations. I started learning about public relations. I was like, oh, okay, so this is different than I thought, right? The art or technique or profession of promoting goodwill. So then I was like, what is goodwill? I thought goodwill was a thrift store, right? Like, again, I'm being honest with you guys. This was my background. I knew nothing of business. I was like, goodwill is where you drop your shirts off when you don't want them anymore and your little brother can't fit them or use them, right? That's goodwill. So I didn't want to do public relations at Goodwill. I was like, no, thank you. Okay, but goodwill, promoting goodwill. And so when I really simplified this down, it's what do people think of you? What is your reputation? I understood that because my dad taught me you want to have a good reputation. You want to be thought well of. You want people to have a good opinion of you. Okay, so who are the people? The public, the customers, it even says the employees, the community, right? So this is a key definition. Public relations should precede your marketing. Think about the soccer example. If I have shitty soccer balls, right? They go flat easy, they're slippery, they're hard to use, right? They're lopsided, whatever it might be. It's a bad product. Okay. And then I go and I spend a bunch of money on advertising and I start praising, I start using this definition, advertise something to my target audience. I'm praising, we got the best soccer balls in the world and it's the number one soccer ball and you're going to want to use it, but the reputation is they're lopsided, they go flat, right? All this negative stuff. My advertising efforts and particularly my advertising dollars are going to go to waste. Why? Because I have a bad reputation, right? I'm pissing into the wind. It's blowing back on me. It's something that I'm experiencing. Like, and this is an issue where you could have a bad reputation, or you could have no reputation. Nobody knows who you are yet. You haven't developed that track record of good work, right? What is the basis of a good reputation? Think of a good mechanic shop. First, they started by doing a good job. A good restaurant, they have a good reputation. It's not because of their Google reviews, it's because it's well known that they make good food. When you go there, it's good. They do good work, right? Public relations starts there. Do I do good work? If I don't do good work, I'm going to end up with a bad reputation, right? Leah has a great point. You haven't built trust yet. Okay. And you have to have trust, right? Before that, people have to like you enough to give you a shot. And before they can like you, they need to know about you in the first place. So it's this triangle of knowing, liking, trusting that builds into the public relations aspect. Then you have what the online world would call a brand. I was so confused about brand. I was like, branding, branding, promotion, marketing, advertising. I thought it was all the same thing. Honestly, I was like, you do stuff on Facebook, right? And that's all of them. No, no, no. Public relations, that's your brand. What do people think of you? Synonymous, those two terms, right? You do not need to spend $1 on marketing to have good public relations. You don't. Right. And so we get this, new age business of like, okay, you need to be doing Facebook and you need to be doing this, and you need to be doing that. Okay, great. But if I start spending money on Facebook and I don't have this in, Facebook is a form of advertising, which is a way of marketing. And I'm trying to entice people to buy, but no one knows who I am, or they do and they don't like me. So these are some key definitions I wanted to dive in first on, because this sets the tone. Now, I want to share with you, before I get into the natural laws of management here, I want to share with you some examples we can all relate to, right? Some examples we can all relate to. Show your hand if you've ever seen an online guru showing off their fancy car and their stacks of money and the hot girls they're with and all of this kind of stuff, trying to entice you to buy their product or service. Okay? Go ahead and put your hands down. Thank you. I don't even know what the product or service is. Like, are you selling me cars? Are you selling me prostitutes? Are you selling me hair gel? Like, what is it that you're advertising in that kind of communication? I don't know, right? Like if you're trying to tell me you are a marketing company and you're selling me your marketing by showing me scantily clad women, like, I don't compute those two things as the same. I'm not like, that makes me think this guy's going to help me with my marketing, right? So what is this? This is the public relations is out, right? Like, they're not showing me I have a reputation of successful marketing. I don't get that from that kind of ad. They're not showing me their goodwill. Here's all the people we've helped. Here's the results. Here's the proof. Here's the trust, right? And so because those things are being bypassed, I'm a logical person. They're never going to get my business. I'm going to go and look for someone that can show me public relations, goodwill. I've done this before. People think well of me. I've got this track record. I've got results. Okay. And I'm going to show you how this beautifully ties together. So that's an example of somebody who is completely violating all of this, right? They're just showing, look at me, look at me. I'm this badass. I've achieved status and I have, money and women and power and repute and all this different stuff. They're not saying like, hey, if you need a soccer ball, I sell good ones. If you need marketing, I sell good marketing. Right? Completely wrong. Now, here's another one, and this is going to be the enigma of our lifetimes. Show of hands if you are also confused how McDonald's still has customers. It's not good food. It's not good for you. There's been documentaries about it. Thank you. You can put your hands down. We all know it's bad. It tastes bad. It's bad for you, right? And I'll tell you guys a funny story on this. My bonus son, Sammy, he is European, right? So he grew up in Sweden and Denmark and UK. And so he moved to America in like the last 5 years or something, right? And so he was chilling with me the last 2 months, and I was like, all right, I'm going to teach you like what it's like. What is it to be American? Like, this is the training I'm going to give you. So the first thing I was like, you need to know like good burger, fry, and shake. That's about as American as it gets. Like a good burger with some good fries and a good shake. And so I took him on a food tour of all the different places you can get burgers, fries, and shakes, right? And not Taco Bell. The 3 restaurants I told him never to go to, I was like, Taco Bell, McDonald's, and Subway. I was like, never go to those 3. I was like, you check out all the other places, don't go to those ones. But the point there was that even we knew, like he knew McDonald's is bad. That's the reputation. Okay. Now, how does McDonald's still get customers? They spend so much money on this, right? Like they know their product isn't good. They're not trying to improve it. They're not trying to compete with Chick-fil-A and In-N-Out Burger and these guys that are actually trying to make a quality burger and fries and be at that top echelon. They know they're the bottom of the barrel, but they know that, hey, we can spend so much money that it won't matter. And here's how much advertising and marketing they do. They sponsor the Olympics, guys. Like the pinnacle of athleticism is sponsored by McDonald's, right? And so that's a way to go about it if you have that kind of money. But they have a multi-billion-dollar advertising budget and they spend all of it, and that's not a feasible business model for us. I don't have $1 billion to bypass having a good reputation with. I don't have $1 billion to advertise to people where literally they're now programmed to think that my food is healthy because they saw LeBron James drinking Sprite and having a burger. So we have to think with what works. And so because a lot of businesses, we look at this and we're like, that doesn't work. I can't do that. I don't have the money and resources to go that big and have all these commercials and stuff. We're then looking at the Instagram douchebag with the rented jet and the scantily clad women, and we're like, I don't want to do that. Like that's not attractive to me. And so we just don't advertise. We just don't market. We just don't do it. Okay. Now, this definition of public relations is the starting point. You can have good public relations by sitting down with your customer, doing a good job, and asking them for a referral, right? Like you've completed the advertising, like public relations to advertising and marketing. Like you don't need to spend anything on that. That's an easy transaction. We've all done that before. You can go to a networking group. That would count. That's a public medium, right? That's where people are. And you basically use your goodwill, your reputation to gain the trust of the group and get business, right? And that's a way to go about it. What I want to share with you tonight is how do you start that and how do you scale that, right? Because if you can create a machine that consistently gives you new customers, you will experience freedom as a business owner. But if you're the one that has to go to the networking group, if you're the one that has to ask for the referral, if you're the one that has to do all of this stuff, you never really gain freedom. Just like if you're the one having to do the actual delivery of the product or service. If you're doing consulting and you are constantly always going to be the consultant, you'll never have freedom from your business. And so winning in business, is this simple. It's do it yourself, systematize it, and then hire someone and train them to do it. And that's all aspects. That's the sales. That's the marketing. That's everything involved in a company can be done that way, right? So I want to read you one final definition. Okay, one final definition, and we've gone over this one before. This is the valuable final product. This is from Natural Laws of Management. This is page 21 in the book for anyone that wants to follow along. And if you're not, if you don't have the book, I'm going to give you a QR code at the end where you can grab a free copy of this. This book is phenomenal. It's transformed the way I do business. A finished high quality service or article in the hands of the consumer as an exchange for a valuable. Okay, a finished high quality service. So it's a done. It's not like the burger's halfway cooked. It's not like the consulting is halfway done. It's not like the marketing campaign is halfway built. It's finished. It's done. Okay. A finished high quality. What is high quality? It means that it is of a better value than the other things that it can be compared to. Are you going above and beyond with your deliverable, with your value? Okay. In the hands of the consumer. It's in their hands. They have it, right? It's not something that it's like if you wait long enough, you'll have. No. They have it. It's done. It's in their hands now. As an exchange for a valuable. They have it, and then they give you something in exchange for that, right? Money, goodwill, whatever it might be. But here's the thing. Goodwill is one of the very first things you'll get when you truly deliver a valuable final product. Okay, and there's no way around this, but just understanding the needs of the people you're serving, delivering what's wanted and needed, plus a little extra, going above and beyond with the service. Okay, everyone take a minute. I want you to think of one person you know that does that consistently, right? A person, a business where you're like, every time I go there, I get more than I expected. There's a little extra. Okay, good. You guys have that? Awesome. So I want you to now think of what is your opinion of that person? What is your opinion of them? What is their reputation with you? Okay. Because of that valuable final product, they have good public relations with you. You will back them. You will vouch for them. You will refer people to them. You'll leave them a positive review. If anyone asks you about whether you should do business with this person, you'd say yes. Okay. That is where public relations starts. It has nothing to do with Facebook. It has nothing to do with videos. It has nothing to do with content, right? Like we live in such a weird world, guys. For the last several thousands of years, content creation was not a thing. Think about, like, you can go back to like ancient times in like ancient Greece or Rome where they did business. They didn't have TikTok. They didn't have Facebook. They weren't creating short videos. They weren't, none of this stuff. Those are all forms of advertising. Those are all forms of marketing. What you start with is, do I have a good product or service? This is where the rubber hits the road, guys. You either do, you don't. Like the thing that dictates its value is what other people think about it. And as an entrepreneur, it's not about whether I think I have a valuable final product. Okay? The value of your final product will be measured by the amount of customers and money you're receiving. If you're not receiving lots of money in your company, if you're not receiving lots of customers, the marketplace is voting and saying your product isn't valuable enough. And if you make it valuable enough, you will receive those things. Okay. Now, this is a closed-ended circuit. Who knows what that means? It's a circle. It goes around again. Because you're doing the valuable final product, you'll become more known. Word will get out, and it will come back around, and it will allow you to do more of your valuable final product. Right? But it starts there. Now, I want to read from you guys a section on the natural laws of management relating to this. And these are some of the things that, Arte talks about in the book and that Mr. Hubbard obviously talks about as well. But if you look on page 60, this is a chapter called Organizing Through a Production Checklist, right? And there's a section here called Reaching the Right Consumers, right? And so he gets into this. Getting the product into the hands of the consumer would have to include knowing who the potential customers are so as to create demand for the product, as well as then being able to get the product into their hands, right? So these are things you would be thinking of. He says, all too often, however, individuals and companies have not done a careful analysis of who their correct publics are and where they can create and expand the demand for their products. So he gets into this. This is from Mr. Hubbard now, right? So Artie leads in. This is Artie. Finding the right consumer would have to include surveys. What do your customers and clients think is valuable? What do your customers really want? Are these the right customers? Can you satisfy their expectations? Okay, surveys, right? So think about, like, remove business from the equation because for some of us like me, business was a topic of confusion. When I would add business into the equation, it would make me feel more confused. And then I was getting into like, all these different problems and misunderstood definitions and stuff. Think about this. You have a loved one and you really want to nail their Christmas present. You want to get them the best Christmas present they've ever gotten before. Okay? You have two choices. You can shoot from the hip and you can be like, I think they're going to like this. I think they're going to want that. Who's ever done this before? Right? I really, really think my wife is going to want to blah, 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 blah. Right? But we don't ever, and you don't need to come right out and be like, I'm going to buy you a Christmas present. What do you want? Like, if you have a wife like that, that's awesome. Right? But if you don't survey, you run the risk of going all in on this gift and then you give it to them and they hate it. Right? If you've ever had that happen, which I have before, it's not fun for either side. Right? So if you're trying to blow your loved one's mind with a Christmas present, you would want to observe and maybe even ask questions to understand what they want and need. Right? And then it's as simple as taking that information and getting them the damn thing, like the thing they said they wanted and needed. That simple, done. I really want a car. Good. So then if I get a car, I'm winning. Okay. Now here's the problem. We try and make things more complicated. That's too boring. It's too boring for me to ask my customers what they want and then just give them that. It's too boring to just ask my wife what she wants for Christmas and then give her that. I want to be creative. No, 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 no. 99% of business is not creative. The systems should be standard. The marketing should be standard. The way you determine what you're going to put on your social media should be standard. Okay, creativity should be in like the little aspects of like, okay, what are we going to deliver? And I'm creating the business. Once you've created the business, it's no longer creating. It's how do we standardize all of this? Otherwise, you're never going to get out of it. Okay, you will forever be changing, creating, and basically destroying any semblance of organization and standardness that can get you out of the business. Out of the business meaning you power out and you don't need to be doing the consultations anymore. You don't need to be doing the marketing anymore. Right? There's someone that would be able to step into your role and say, I know how to, determine what product should we market based on the definition. How are we going to praise it and publicly promote it? What public medium of communication are we going to use? Who are the people we're going to talk to? What is it that we're going to tell them? Every single element of that should be able to be standardized. And it starts with surveying. Okay, so here's a couple of questions you can ask. Here's a couple of things you can think about. This is from Mr. Hubbard. What products of the group are economically valuable? Okay, so your company, what is it that we deliver that makes economic sense? It's valuable economically. Other people will value it. We're going to get value for it. That's the starting point. Right? And I struggled with this for the longest time. Okay, maybe you can relate to me on this. I had this thing about money where I was like, well, it's the root of all evil and you shouldn't ever want it and it can make you a bad person and you can't go to heaven if you have it. But my church asks for it all the time, right? I was so confused on the topic of money. And so when I got into business, I was like, I want to be in business just to help. All I want to do is help. And who knows Zig Ziglar? Anyone familiar with the guy Zig Ziglar? Okay, probably one of the nicest old dudes ever. Right? Like super high integrity, really valuable content. And so he was like my definition of like a nice business guy. I was like, he's a helpful dude. He's not a sleaze bag. He's not out there ripping people off. So I'm listening to a Zig Ziglar podcast, and he says, the most important thing to me about my business is money. And it blew my mind. I was like, what is he talking about? This is Zig Ziglar. Zig Ziglar is not supposed to say those kinds of things. He's like, no, think about it like this. If I don't make money, I can't stay in business. I can't pay my staff. How can I help people if those things aren't happening? If I'm out of business and I can't pay my employees, how am I going to help anybody? And so for that reason, I need to make sure the economics make sense for the business. Otherwise, I cannot be helpful. And it changed my viewpoint entirely because I was like, he's right. He's completely right. If I want to do this without money involved, I can go work at a church or do a nonprofit or something like that. But even those organizations need money. Okay, there's no way around this. So Mr. Hubbard is saying, what products of the group are economically valuable? Like, you need to think with that. Okay, the worst position to be in is a business owner that doesn't make enough money. Okay, that is literally, guys, I've done it. Go be an employee. Like, if I can talk you off the ledge right now, if you are considering being a business owner that does not make lots of money, I'm telling you, it's a really bad idea. I've tried it. You have freaking 90 hours a week of work. It all lands on your shoulders. Everyone's being paid but you, right? Go work for someone if you're going to do that. Like, let someone else deal with the stress. The business never turns off. And it's 5 years of that. You're in a trap. You're never getting out of that thing. Okay. Your employees will have more freedom than you. So you need to be thinking with, what do I deliver that makes economic sense? It's valuable. It's going to bring in money. It's going to be something other people consider to be valuable. And it starts there. Now, Mr. Hubbard gets into, he says, this is the key point that will be overlooked. So what products of the group are economically valuable? This is the key point that will be overlooked. He's saying this is the number one thing people are going to not look at. I'm starting a business. Will it make money? That's the first question. Will it make money? Otherwise, there's no reason for you to be in business. Okay. He gets into what, in short, can this group exchange with other groups or society that will obtain things the group does not produce? Okay, so I need to produce something and exchange it with other people, and the thing they give me needs to be stuff I don't already produce. So if I produce soccer balls and then I'm like, great, I sell a soccer ball, and in exchange, I get a soccer ball from a customer, that doesn't help. I already produce soccer balls. I don't need that, right? I need something I don't produce. I need resources that I don't already have, right? Then he says, this is the heart of economics. The law of supply and demand applies. This is too hard-headed an approach for a whole group to decide upon without a great deal of personal work. If the group has a past to assess, then it will previously have produced products from time to time that did demonstrate economic value. A search for and a list of these is of primary value. So if you're starting a business, one of the first questions you should be looking at is, what have I already produced before that I got paid for? Don't start a business with something you've never done before if you can avoid it. Right, the learning curve on that, like add another 5 years. You need 5 years of just education on figuring out how this thing works before it can even become a viable business. Right, and this is the thing, is we typically see entrepreneurs become entrepreneurs because they're trying to escape something they didn't like, and because it was freedom from, not freedom to. Anytime someone tells you freedom from, you should be concerned. Right, like I'm free from that, but where am I going now? Right? And if you're going now into a situation that's just as bad or worse in the same or different aspects, you're not free because you didn't get freedom to something. Okay. So a lot of times we have entrepreneurs that become entrepreneurs because they're trying to escape something and they're gaining freedom from, and then they're like, yeah, so I'm throwing the baby out with the bathwater. I was working in a consulting company and I didn't like it. And even though I have 10 years of experience as a consultant, I'm going to try being a chef because that's new and that's not associated with this bad stuff that I experienced before. Okay, no. You have a 10-year track record as a consultant. Go be a consultant. Go start a consultant company. You already know that. You've already been paid for that. That's already valuable and viable. And you don't need to add years of learning how to be a consultant. You can just run with it and hit the ground. Now, if you're reading this and implementing this, it doesn't even need to be 5 years to freedom. Right? If you already know the tech of being a consultant, how do I be a consultant? How do I consult people? How do I make money at that? Then you know how to organize a company, which is the other half of the missing equation, and you're an ethical person, you're out as quick as you want to be. You can build that thing up in 1 year or 2 years and be done and have it being run by other people, and you go do the next thing. That's not going to happen if you're starting with a new skill set, right? And then you've got, again, your marketing. You can't market something you've never done before. You don't have public relations in a field you've never been in. You don't have a reputation, which is just as bad as having a bad one. At least with a bad one, people freaking know about you, right? Like, I'm not a big on the first impressions thing. People say you can never redo a first impression. Guys, I have redone so many first impressions, you wouldn't believe it. Every impression is a chance for a new first impression. I can overcome someone doesn't like that I wear a hat and not a suit. I can overcome that. I can't overcome they don't even know who I am in the first place to be able to be like, I don't like that guy. He wears hats instead of suits. Right? That's a problem that I can't solve. I can solve that you don't like the hat, but I need to be known first. Right? So sticking with a field you've gotten results in, you already have that track record. You already have that reputation to some degree. He says if the group has no past, it has some experience available from society which it can employ. So again, he's saying if you don't have a track record, you've got to go look in society. And this is where I got confused just with how do you run a business, right? Dozens of books, dozens of conferences, dozens of differing opinions. So imagine that, and also, how do you become a chiropractor? How do you do consulting? How do you run ads as a service? If I was worried about and confused by dozens of opinions on just how do you run a company, add to it the mix, dozens more opinions on the correct way to do consulting, I'm going to go nowhere. Right? So use your own experience is what he's saying. And then he says that the subproducts leading up to that, right? So he goes on to this, he says, it can be taken as a rule that group members will not identify or phrase the valuable final products. So your group is not going to phrase what is that we're producing. That's not naturally going to happen. So this has to be an intentional thing you do as the owner, as the founder, because this is then the centerpiece of all your marketing. This is then the centerpiece of every piece of content you make, right? What is my valuable final product? What is the final thing we put? It's quality, high quality in the hands of our public, in the hands of our customers that we receive money or exchange back from. What is that thing? Everything I do should be based on that. If I'm making a video, somehow it's based on that. If I'm spending money on advertising, somehow it's based on that. Right? And this is the problem, is because that's not happening. Mr. Hubbard is saying, guys, these quotes from Mr. Hubbard, these are from like the 1950s, 60s, and 70s. I want you to think about the timelessness of this. In business, the term value product isn't even known. Right? And because it's not known, and then you add in the fact that, well, now everyone's supposed to be a content creator, you'll see business owners making the most random content that has nothing to do with their business. Right? If you're not in the business of raising kids, why are you making content about your kids? Right? Like if you're a mechanic, like you should be showing me videos of the cars you fixed. That should, because that's your valuable final product. I don't need to see you at the gym. Right? Like I'm not looking for a life coach. I'm looking for a mechanic. And this whole like, branding and influencer and content creator, like you can use content, you can use influence, you can use brand, but if you're not pointing it at your valuable final product so that you drive more business to grow your company, it is wasted effort. And we have, this culture with social media where I honestly think, you guys can agree with me or disagree with me. Who thinks there's too many influencers? Okay, show me some hands or some hands in the comments. Who thinks there's way too many people out there on social media teaching you how to do life, teaching you how to go to the gym, teaching you this, teaching you that, selling their masterclass, doing this? It's because they don't have a valuable final product. They don't specialize in anything. They don't have a skill. Because they don't have a skill, they're just like, look what I eat for dinner. My kid goes to bed too. Here's how I tuck them in. When I get in an argument with my spouse, here's what we say. Like, and then you're like, well, what do you do? Oh, I teach financial classes. Here's how to do a budget. What about that? Or like, look at my investment portfolio. This is how I picked it. Like, or here's a person I helped. Look what they have now. Like, those are things you can do. I don't need to know what you had for dinner. It doesn't help me with my finances. Are you a chef? Are you a dietitian? No. Okay. If you sell insurance, show me a review of your customers that bought insurance from you. Do an interview with them, right? Can you see how this becomes so much more confrontable? Because I'm thinking with what do I deliver that's valuable and who do I deliver it to? And if I can show content of me delivering that thing or having delivered that thing or someone else talking about the way I delivered it, and even better, the person I'm talking to is the same exact audience that I want to attract. If I want to attract females who are Hispanic in their mid-30s, and I interview a female who's Hispanic in their mid-30s saying how I did such a good job with whatever it was I did, guess who's going to be interested in that video? Females in their mid-30s who are Hispanic. They see, oh, that's like me. I'm like that person. That looks like me. They share the same problems I have. They share the same realities, the same viewpoints. And they're saying that this Carlos guy helped them with their insurance. I'm going to Carlos. Why? Because people like me apparently go to Carlos. But I can't do that if I'm not using the valuable final product and the public relations. Now, the final point that I want to hit here is chapter 13. Okay, chapter 13. Actually, let me use the survey tech. Who wants me to keep going? Show of hands if you want to hear what is being said in chapter 13. Got some hands up? Good, good. So I'm going to share with you what's in chapter 13. This is a chapter called interest. The key to any successful endeavor is being interested. This is from Arte Maren. The key to any successful endeavor is being interested. Interest is a very, very valuable tool, and it is one of the most valuable resources an administrator has. An administrator is you, someone who runs a business, right? An executive, a CEO, a founder. You're the one that runs and manages the company. You're the administrator. To find out what is valuable, you're going to have to be interested. I'm going to read that simple line to you again. To find out what is valuable, you're going to have to be interested. Okay, I want you to think of a time you were having a conversation with someone and you could tell they had zero interest in you. They weren't really listening. They weren't really there, right? Maybe their response was not aligned with all the things you told them. And you're like, this person doesn't give a crap, right? They're not interested in me. What was your reaction there? You're like, there's not value here. Whether that's a business transaction or even a friendship, or maybe you're on a date and you're like, do I want to keep dating this person? No, they're not interested in me. Okay, it doesn't work. So he's saying you're going to have to be interested, and a professional is interested. Okay, Frank Sinatra made you feel like he was singing to you. He was interested in the audience, and he got in return admiration and applause. Why? Because every single person listening felt like Frank Sinatra was singing to them. He was interested in them. He was infatuated with them. Okay, there's another guy that says this. If you go look up anything about Jeff Bezos and customer service, he will tell you that their goal is to be the most custom company on the planet. Okay, Warren Buffett will tell you that the greatest companies he's invested in are obsessed with delighting their customers. They are interested, right? Now, here's the balance you've got to be able to strike as an entrepreneur. You've got a lot of things pulling at your interest, don't you? Emails, paperwork, sales, financial problems. You've got a lot of things pulling at your interest. You need to gain the ability to have the person in front of you be the only thing that matters in your universe at that moment. I'm completely interested in that person. I'm completely interested in their problems. I'm completely interested in what they think. And if you can manage that, that helps your public relations. That's an X factor that others don't have. When I make a video, I picture who it is I'm talking to. Who am I talking to right now? And I picture them there and I have a conversation with them right then and there with the camera on. If I write an article, again, marketing, I write a blog, people are going to read stuff, right? And I'm going to give you guys, quick segue, I'm going to give you guys that are like, oh, this doesn't work. Okay, I wrote an article, I don't even know when, a couple months ago. I wrote an article on medium.com. Everybody here that's an entrepreneur, you can go set up a Medium account and you can set it up for almost nothing. It's like $5 a month. Okay, I wrote an article on Medium, 5 paragraphs, and I was just very interested in who it was I was writing to for that article. Okay, post it, forget all about it. Right? And so someone could be like, oh, the marketing didn't work because someone didn't walk up to me with the article in their hands and say, I'm giving you $5,000 because you wrote an article. Okay, right? It's indirect. It gets out there in the world. People see it, they read it, that plants the seed. Right? I have a business partner that I'm flying out to meet tomorrow to sign a huge business deal with to expand our organizations. And he met me because he read that article. That free article on Medium and LinkedIn that I don't even remember writing. I can't even tell you what it's about, but I know when I wrote it, I was thinking about my public. I was thinking about the audience on the other end. I was interested in them. And so he's now a partner of mine because he read an article. Every single one of you that's watching this should be writing articles about the thing you're an expert on. If you're an expert in bookkeeping, you should be writing articles about bookkeeping. You should be doing videos about bookkeeping, right? Now, some people will tell you, well, articles are outdated. People like video content, not my kind of people. If you can't read, I don't want you as a client. That's a problem waiting to happen, right? That's my first prerequisite. I wrote the book, Blueprint to Financial Freedom. Prove to me you can read. Prove to me you can read. If you did not read the book, you don't work with us. You don't become a client, right? And so that's something you should consider is what's the sophistication level? If I'm peddling McDonald's, I don't care if you can read. I'm not interested in that. I'm trying to poison you. I'm trying to get you to eat shitty burgers and fries and overpay. I hope you can't read. Like I'm betting on that. That's my audience. My audience in real life is sophisticated people, people who will study, people who will think for themselves, people who will read something, people who have that old soul, right? Who knows what I mean by old soul? Like you might be 30 years old, but it's like, man, you've been around for a while, right? I like that person. Why? Because that's me. I like working with people I like that are like me. There's affinity there. There's instant reality. We're going to communicate much easier. So I think about all this stuff. I'm interested in that person. I'm interested in who they are, right? So Mr. Hubbard goes on to say, A person is interested and an object is interesting. That's like a mic drop. Let me read that to you again. A person is interested. A human being displays interest in others. That's a trait of a being. That's a sentient thing. I care. I want to know. I'm interested. An object is interesting. Okay, I want you to think about when was the last time the rock out in your driveway was interested in you? Where he was like, oh, hey, Andrew, how was your day? It doesn't happen unless you did large amounts of drugs, right? The rock is not going to ask you how your day was. It doesn't give a crap how your day was. In fact, it'll accidentally fall off a mountain and crush your head in. That's how interested the rock is in you. It doesn't care. It doesn't care. Have you ever gone into a river and it just about pulled you over in the current and drowned you? It's not interested in you. It thinks you're part of it. It's like, oh, this is now part of the river, and it will take your life without ever thinking about it, right? Objects are interesting. I can be interested in the rock. I could be interested in the car in my garage. I could be interested in a book. It's an object. It's interesting. That's an interesting thing. I want to look at it more. It can't be interested in me. He goes on to say, a person is not interesting. A person should not be focused on being interesting. And this is what's wrong with a lot of people's advertising. It's an effort to be interesting. The scantily clad women in the rented private jets and the rented Lambos from Turo, that's an effort to be interesting, right? So he says a person is not interesting, he is interested. And when a person becomes terribly interesting, he has lots of problems. That is the chasm that is crossed by all of your celebrities. Anyone who is foolish enough to become famous. Let's just take a pause there. Who agrees that most actors, singers, celebrities, they're attempting to be interesting? The makeup, the clothing, the cars, the names they give their kids. It's like, that's not a name. That's not even a word. You got that from an alien planet. What the hell? Whatever happened to Brian and Jeff? Right? Like, that's interesting. Look at me, look at me, look at me. I'm attracting attention. Okay, now who else has noticed celebrities slowly turn their bodies into objects? Plastic this, fake that. They slowly turn their bodies into objects. In fact, when you look at some of them, they look like dolls now. They look like objects. I'm going to go back to what Mr. Hubbard said. This guy is wise as I'll get out. A person is interested, an object is interesting. Right? Think about the douchebag video I talked about. What is it full of? Objects. The fancy car, that's an object. The private jet, that's an object. The scantily clad women covered in fake body parts, basically that's an object at this point in time. They're trying to pull your interest, right? Now, I don't know about you, who has ever played with laser lights with their animals before, right? You get them to chase the light around the room. Okay, I'm not an animal. I don't want to be advertised to that way. I don't want you to be like, oh, look at this shiny thing. And I'm like, oh, a shiny thing. I better sign up for that. No, that's not how it works. I want you to be interested in my problems and be like, okay, here's what I see happening in Jerry's universe when he's looking to do car insurance. Here's his problem. I know this because I've dealt with so many people like Jerry who are looking to do car insurance. I'm interested in him. I'm interested in the fact that it's a hassle. I'm interested that he's overpaying. I'm interested that he just sees these big commercials on TV, these giant companies, and he thinks that that's the best deal, and it's actually not. He's overpaying, and that's money that he could spend on his wife instead. I'm interested in that. So if I have that level of interest, I'm going to communicate to Jerry much better about the car insurance, aren't I? Right? Interest, right? So he goes on, he says, the celebrity, he crosses over from being interested in life to being interesting. And the people who are interesting are really no longer interested in life. Think of a person who started out where they were just real, right? There as an actor, as a musician, like they were like salt of the earth, where they were like a real person. And because of that, they were authentic. And you're like, I like that person. I listen to their music. I watch their movies. Why? Because they're a real person, right? And that's what they had going for them, was the fact that they were interested in what kind of music people wanted to hear. They were interested in what people liked about good movies and good acting. And so, yeah, they gained celebrity status, but almost on accident. Their public relations was so good because their valuable final product was so good because their interest level in who they were serving was so high that they naturally became famous. Right? These are these bands that were like, man, this is classic, or these actors were like, they're the best of the best. And sometimes a sad moment happens where you'll watch them go from interested to interesting. All of a sudden, their music's not as good. All of a sudden, their movies are not as good. What do we call that? We say they sold out. They became a sellout, right? They got rid of all the good things we liked about them and they traded it for all the fame and all this stuff because they wanted to be interesting all of a sudden. And I don't know why that happened. Maybe someone got in their ear and told them, oh, you need to do this and you need to do that. And this is how it's done here, right? But the success was on the front end before they got involved in being interesting. Okay, so here's what I want to show you guys tonight. Final thing, I'm going to share my screen. This is a simple triangle that I use that takes all of what we've covered so far this evening, and it makes it easy and digestible. Okay, and if you're looking at this, feel free to screenshot it, feel free to use it, right? But this is a simple triangle that if you were to apply this, it's based on everything we learned in the natural laws of management from Arte Maren and from Mr. Hubbard, right? But it starts with good works or a good product, okay? Do you have a good product? Do you have good works? That's that valuable final product that we talked about, right? Keyword being valuable. It needs to be valuable to them and to you. Like when you exchange it, they're happy and you're also happy because you got paid something that actually helps you, right? It starts there. If this is out, the good works and the good product isn't in, I promise you, you're being interesting instead of interested, or you're interested in the wrong things or the wrong people. I'll give you an example of that. Who here has a friend that wants to start an Amazon business simply because they think it's easy money? Make money online and you can get rich so easy. And I know so-and-so who did it, right? I know people like that. They're interested in the wrong thing. Okay. Jeff Bezos, who runs Amazon, didn't make money. He was not profitable for decades. So that's how much interest he had in making money. What was he interested in? Good works, good product. How do we make this the easiest way to buy online? How do we make this the most customer centric? How do we make it so easy to return stuff that you're like surprised? You're like, how is that so simple to send this back? Right? So the guy who started Amazon, he wasn't even interested in how do I make easy money online? That's how you know it's off. So if I'm not getting the good works, good product part done, I'm probably interested in the wrong things. Could be myself, could be money, could be whatever. Or I'm being interesting. Either way, I'm not interested in delivering what's wanted and needed to the people who wanted and need it. That needs to be the number one thing I'm obsessed about. And I would say, like from a time standpoint, if you're an entrepreneur, let's be honest, you're working 60 to 80 hours a week probably. That's even more important than interest in your family at that point, based on time allocation. Like that's where you spend your time. You should know those people like you know your kids. You should know those people like you know your wife because you spend more time serving their interests than anyone else on the planet. Okay. And I want to give you permission to do that. That's okay. That doesn't mean you're a bad dad, a bad mom. It means that you spend 60 to 80 hours a week doing that. You better get the best return on investment as you can out of that focus so that you can love your family the way they deserve to be loved. Right? Like you should be like, man, I obsess about my customer because that's what keeps this life going. Right? And if I go back to what Mr. Hubbard said about interest, he said, he who crosses over from being interested in life to being interesting, people who are interesting are no longer interested in life. What is life? Life is the things you create. Life is what you like to do, your loved ones, your church, your animals, whatever you're traveling, whatever you consider to be part of your life. If you're interested in that, you need to be just as interested in serving the needs of the people you serve, right? And that starts here. Good works, good product. I obsess over that. It means I'm asking questions. I'm surveying. I'm watching. I'm observing, right? Now I'm going to give you one thing on the survey point. Okay, there's two ways to survey. You can ask people directly, and you need to discern Realize you're the one that produces the thing, not them. They're the consumer, right? So if I'm a world-class chef and I survey my customers and they're like, you should really change this aspect. And then also, what if we go from Italian to Mexican? Right? I don't need to be a robot and be like, the customer said, so we're going to do Mexican. No, no, no. I can still do Italian, but if they said, hey, the music's a little too loud and I hear that enough, I can discern and I can change the music. You don't need to robotically follow what your customer surveys on. Sometimes it's against policy in your company. It wouldn't be a good idea. Okay. So you can ask directly. You can also observe. You can observe, right? So let's take this. I know we have some people that are in bookkeeping and accounting. Let's say I want to observe, what should my valuable final product be? Based on the first point that Mr. Hubbard said people will overlook. Is it financially valuable? I could survey by pulling up my income statement and looking at what are the highest categories of income I receive based on this year, last year, whatever it might be. I can run a survey on that and I can say, wow, we make the most money when we do this. That's my valuable final product. I don't need to ask anybody. I see it right there on the financial statement. We should sell more of this. Right? There's a reason why the McDonald's McRib is like once a year. I don't even know what that thing is. Right? I don't think it does well. They probably don't need to survey it very much. They can look at their statement and be like, wow, we don't sell very much of that weird pork thing. Right? But they know their burgers and their fries, that's where it is. Okay, here's another one. If you want to talk about final, survey where are you getting the most returns? Where are you getting the most refunds? Where are you getting the most cancellations? Whatever that area is, that's not your final product because it's not final if it comes back. It's not final if people are canceling it. It's not final if they're like, I don't want this anymore. Right? So I could look at that by process of elimination and be like, wow, this is the one we get returns on the most. That's not final. Therefore, it's not valuable either. Here's the one that never gets returned. And what if I found the sweet spot of this never gets returned and is the highest profitability? And now I know this is valuable and final, right? So there's more than one way to determine good works and good product. But I think the most overlooked one, even as a CEO, is like your job is a product. Your job is the product you sell to your employees. Are you surveying them? Are you observing their wants and needs? Are you asking them for feedback? This is going to make you run the most boring, successful business there ever was, is simply just asking people what they like and don't like and adjusting based on those answers. Okay. But you need to put the crazy in the back seat and be like, no, 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 no. We're not going to run around and just do random stuff anymore. We're going to make this super chill, super uniform so anyone can run this thing. Okay. Let's get into the survey feedback. So you get the survey feedback. Okay. We like this. We don't like that. Okay. Here's the most easy, simple one. Produce, like having done the research, produce the thing that's good. Good works, good product. Then ask someone, hey, I just delivered this to you. What did you think? What did you like about it? What did you experience? What would you tell people they should know or be aware of? All of the feedback you can get, right? Written format, video format, doesn't matter. And then you ask the magic question. Do I have permission to share this? That's it. Do I have permission to share this? If they say yes, awesome. Go on Canva and create a graphic with their little story about their experience and their name and all the stuff that they're willing to share and publish that. You've just come full circle. You're now advertising and marketing. Put that on your social media. Put that on your Google. Send that on a mail postcard, whatever it is. More people will come and you will have yet another opportunity to deliver good works or good product. You have another opportunity to get a survey and get feedback. You have another opportunity to convert that into marketing. Like, this makes business so simple. I don't need to worry about like, what should I post on my social media? I don't need to worry about what should I make a video about, right? Like, I don't need to think, because here's the problem is when I don't know that, means I'm not interested in my publics, means I'm not thinking about my valuable final product. Okay, so that's what I wanted to share with you guys this evening on this topic of marketing. And again, I told you at the beginning, this was going to be really basic and really simple, but it was probably going to be something you haven't thought of before, right? And sometimes the way you hide something is you make it as simple as you possibly can, where people are like, there's no way it's that easy, right? If I'm trying to hide gold in my house, I'm going to put it in a book, and people aren't going to be like, I'm going to go look on his shelf. Right now, you guys will, because you'll be like, oh, he keeps his gold in his books, right? But if I hide it in a book, it's too simple. If it's in this big safe, then people are like, oh, that's the thing I should steal, right? It's complicated. It looks like there's stuff there, right? So sometimes it's just as simple as it is. And this is one of those moments where it is really that simple. Okay, so guys, that's what I want to wrap up with tonight. If you benefited from this in any way, what I want to do is I want to invite you to grab a copy of the book, okay, Natural Laws of Management. You can scan the QR code and you can get the book here, right? We'll send it out to you. It's free. You cover the shipping. That's the deal. And in a way, I've done the exact thing that I described to you tonight. Okay, everything I read to you was from the book. I showed you there's good works in the book. You probably think well of Arte Maren and Mr. Hubbard and me, and you're like, wow, that was some good information. Those guys have a good reputation with me now. That sounds like interesting stuff. So I did the first thing, good product, good works, right? Now, you need to actually get the book at this point. You'll read the book and you'll learn more about it, and you'll become a walking advertisement, and you're going to share something with someone in your network that's smart. Like, how did you learn that? I read this book called Natural Laws of Management. You automatically just became marketing for this book, right? And that's the cycle, and it goes on and on and on and on. So if you don't have the book, scan the QR code, get your copy now. And guys, this is like so vital. Like if you've thought of starting a business, even if you're not the owner, right? Who here has ever worked, show of hands, to be honest on this one, who has ever worked for a crazy ass boss before? Like that person is insane, disorganized, everything's all over the place. It's not a conductive, like a productive work environment. Okay, imagine if you were the employee and you knew this information, and you could go in there and you could make everything there more sane. You could be like, hey, what if we were to do this? What if we, and you now know the answers. It would benefit you because your work environment becomes better. Your crazy boss becomes less crazy. You probably end up becoming the CEO anyways, because now you run the thing better than he does. Right? So whether you're the owner or not, this is good information for you to have. Right? And this is the natural laws of management. Families are groups, right? Like this is something you can benefit from as a family member. If you're in a church community group, that's a group. They need to be managed. They need the same kind of stuff, right? So again, grab the book, scan the QR code, and then final thing here, always going to be an action plan. So I want you guys to pre-schedule our next event. Okay, we're going to be doing another live event. It's going to be the final Thursday of January, 7 p.m. Central Time. So I want you to take your phone out, put that in your calendar, set a reminder so you can attend, and I want you to make sure you're there. Number two, between now and then, I want you to buy and read the book. If you don't have the book already, coming to that event with some of this knowledge, and maybe you're probably not going to finish the whole thing in a month. Maybe you will, and if you do, great. But having some traction will help you absorb the information better, even better next time, right? Familiarity is always going to benefit you. So the more you learn things and repeat them over and over and over, the better you're going to be at it. There's a reason why you don't get lost on your drive home. It's because you've been there so often, right? Repetition creates certainty. You go there again and again and again. You just now know where you live. Right. And I want you to know where you live in the sense of business. I want you to read this over and over and over like I do, dive into it, restudy it, attend the webinars, really drill this down, and it's going to be a game changer for you and your business.
Jerry, thank you so much, my friend. It is always a pleasure to listen to you. And what you said before is totally right. It is so simple, but we tend to overcomplicate stuff. Thank you for breaking it down, for giving off some basic definitions. I took a bunch of notes on my book. It was like, I have a couple of realizations like, I'm doing this wrong. Okay. And I need to fix it right now. Okay. Next seminar, people. Thursday, January the 30th, 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to be talking about another subject that we're going to break it down, make it easy for you to be successful 2025. Let's implement. Knowledge is power. Thank you so much. We are Effective Management Association Group. Thank you, everyone. Jerry, final remarks?
Thank you guys. Have a great New Year's, and we'll see you guys on the 30th.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone.